It started with a single, unexpected call, a call that no one in Hollywood was prepared for. Imagine being in the middle of a quiet evening, only to hear Meghan Markle's name come through your phone line. Not a press release, not a publicist's email, but Meghan herself, asking for something unprecedented, something bold, something that could shake not just Hollywood, but the world of royalty intertwined with Tinseltown glamour. The director on the other end, Jason Orley, would later describe it as a moment of disbelief, a mixture of excitement and sheer confusion. How often does a superstar call you late at night with instructions that could change the course of a major studio production? And yet, there it was. Meghan Markle wanted Prince Harry included in her upcoming film, Close Personal Friends. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. You might be wondering, why would Meghan Markle, after years away from acting, make such a daring move? Why demand that her husband, the Duke of Sussex, be involved in a project meant for Amazon MGM's glossy, cinematic world? What could possibly be her angle? Was this a publicity stunt, a strategic career move, or something much more personal, something that would ripple far beyond the movie itself? The answers are complicated, tangled in layers of Hollywood politics, royal protocol, and personal ambition. But the story begins here, in the quiet tension before a storm, in that one phone call that would set off a chain of events no one could predict. Consider the context. Meghan's hiatus from acting has been long and calculated. She stepped away from Hollywood at a time when her personal life became the center of global attention, first with the whirlwind royal wedding, then the media scrutiny, and finally the decision to step back from royal duties altogether. The world watched as her public image shifted. Some hailed her as a modern icon challenging centuries-old institutions. Others criticized her every move. And now, after years of strategic silence, she was returning to acting, but not quietly, not conventionally, and certainly not without making waves. Jason Orley, a director known for his meticulous vision and careful handling of high-profile actors, received the call like a bolt from the blue. He recalls it vividly. The directness, the clarity, the audacity. Meghan didn't simply ask about auditioning or script notes. She outlined a bold vision, a scenario where Harry's presence was not just optional, but essential. The reasoning was compelling, though layered with subtle pressures. Family dynamics, public perception, and the intricate dance between Hollywood and the monarchy. How would a studio handle such a request? Would Amazon MGM, with its reputation for creative freedom yet commercial prudence, simply roll over and accommodate a royal cameo? Or would they resist, fearing complications, legal ramifications, or media storms? And that's where the tension began. Hollywood thrives on bold moves, on star power, on unpredictable moments that captivate audiences. But a royal intervention? That is a different beast altogether. There is protocol, precedent, and the unspoken rules of monarchy that do not always translate well into the film industry. The moment Meghan spoke, the lines between her private life and public persona blurred completely. Suddenly, this film was no longer just a cinematic project. It was a high-stakes negotiation between power, fame, and influence. Can you imagine being on the other side of that phone call, trying to weigh creative freedom against global attention, while a princess, or former princess, directs the conversation with undeniable authority? Audiences, of course, immediately speculated. The rumor mill exploded even before the details were leaked. How much of Harry's involvement would there be? Would he appear on screen? Or was this more of a consultancy role, a behind-the-scenes influence designed to shape the narrative? Hollywood insiders whispered, leaked emails surfaced, and suddenly every minor production note became potential headline news. The curiosity gap widened. Everyone wanted to know what Jason Orley would reveal next, what the studio's response would be, and how Meghan Markle intended to navigate the delicate balance of career ambition and personal relationships. At the same time, the stakes for Meghan were colossal. This was not merely a return to acting. This was a statement. Every scene, every line, every decision in Close Personal Friends carried layers of meaning. Would audiences view her comeback as authentic, a genuine artistic pursuit? Or would critics dismiss it as a calculated media move, designed to manipulate public opinion and reassert control over her narrative? And then there was the royal angle. Prince Harry's involvement added a layer of intrigue that no Hollywood press kit could ever fully convey. Their relationship, the public scrutiny, the media narratives, they all intertwined into a story that was as much about personal legacy as it was about cinematic storytelling. The world was watching, but no one had the full picture. Fans speculated endlessly on social media, breaking down potential scenes, dissecting script leaks, and theorizing about Harry's role. Gossip columns teemed with predictions and half-truths, but behind closed doors, the real drama was unfolding quietly yet intensely. Studio executives debated, lawyers reviewed contracts, and the director found himself caught in a whirlwind of expectation and secrecy. It was an environment where every word mattered, where timing was crucial, and where a single decision could ripple into headlines around the world. And yet, despite the stakes, there was a palpable thrill. This was Hollywood at its most unpredictable, most dramatic, most fascinating. A phone call had turned an ordinary production into a global story overnight. The blend of celebrity, royalty, and cinema created a tension that was irresistible, an unfolding narrative where everyone wanted answers, but no one had them. And so, the story of close personal friends had begun, not with a press release, not with a trailer, but with a phone call that would set the stage for intrigue, drama, and revelations yet to come. But the real question lingered, unspoken yet urgent. What exactly did Meghan want from this project, and how far was she willing to push to get it? The answer, as Jason Orley would later reveal, was shocking, something no one expected, something that would challenge assumptions about Hollywood, celebrity influence, and even the power of royal presence in modern storytelling. And just when it seemed the storm might subside, when the dust had barely settled on that initial call, the next wave hit. Leaks, whispers, and insider reports suggested that Meghan's request was just the beginning, that she had plans, strategies, and contingencies that could alter the trajectory of the entire film, and perhaps even her public image. Hollywood and royalty had collided in a way that no one could have fully prepared for, leaving everyone, audiences, critics, and insiders alike, on the edge of their seats. The world had just begun to digest the shock. Meghan Markle was returning to acting. After years of intense scrutiny, royal responsibilities, and a deliberate step away from the spotlight, she was stepping back into the Hollywood arena, and in a way that no one saw coming. This wasn't a small, independent film, a cameo, or a Netflix side project. This was Close Personal Friends, a major Amazon MGM production, a film with the resources, reach, and prestige that could launch or relaunch careers in a heartbeat. But even before she officially signed on, whispers and speculation began to ripple through Hollywood, reaching journalists, fans, and insiders alike. Why now? Critics asked. Why her? Social media erupted with theories. Some suggested that Meghan's hiatus had been strategic, designed to create the perfect timing for her comeback. Others posited that she was seeking to redefine herself outside the shadow of the monarchy, reclaiming her narrative on her own terms. And then there were those who speculated about the script itself. What was it about Close Personal Friends that was so compelling, so personal, that Meghan Markle felt she needed to return to the screen now? The film's premise was intriguing yet deliberately vague. On the surface, it appeared to be a sharp, sophisticated drama about friendship, loyalty, and the complex human relationships that bind us all. But insiders knew better. Amazon MGM had secured a script that balanced tension, humor, and raw emotion. Exactly the kind of story that could spotlight Meghan's talents while offering audiences the kind of dramatic punch they expected from a major studio release. And more than that, it was the perfect platform for Meghan to make a statement, that she was still a formidable presence in the entertainment world, that she could command attention, respect, and creative control all at once. Hollywood had a long memory, and Meghan's absence had only amplified the anticipation. Directors, producers, and actors alike were buzzing about what her involvement would mean for the production. Some were cautious, wary of potential complications given her past experiences with media scrutiny. Others were thrilled, recognizing that her presence alone could elevate the project, attracting global attention, investors, and an audience eager to see her return. Every conversation, every casting decision, every production meeting was suddenly layered with an extra tension, an awareness that Meghan Markle was no ordinary star returning to a standard film set. It was at this moment, in the midst of mounting anticipation and quiet strategic maneuvering, that Jason Orley stepped into the spotlight of this unfolding drama. Orley, a director known for blending nuanced character studies with commercially successful storytelling, had been approached early on about the project. He had worked with stars of every caliber, yet none of them had presented a situation quite like this. A former royal, a global celebrity, someone whose very presence carried headlines and public opinion. And now, Meghan Markle was on the line, calling directly, personally, to discuss her return and to make a bold request. The casting announcement itself sent shockwaves through the industry. Studios scrambled to prepare press statements, agents fielded media inquiries, and fans immediately mobilized on social media. Headlines screamed across platforms. Meghan Markle returns to acting. Royal rebel takes Hollywood by storm. Prince Harry may be involved? The ambiguity surrounding Harry's potential involvement only intensified the speculation, creating a curiosity gap that would keep audiences glued for months to come. What struck many insiders was the way Meghan positioned herself during this period. She was deliberate, strategic, and assertive, not demanding, but insistent. She had a vision for the film, a sense of how her role would be portrayed, and a clear understanding of the narrative stakes. This wasn't a typical celebrity return. It was a meticulously crafted re-entry into an industry that had changed dramatically in her absence. And she wasn't doing it quietly. Every interaction, every statement, and even every choice of project seemed designed to build intrigue, fuel discussion, and create a sense of urgency. The story quickly evolved from a simple casting announcement to a full-blown Hollywood drama. Other actors began weighing their participation in the project, some eager to work alongside Meghan, others hesitant given the heightened media attention. Directors debated creative choices, how to balance Meghan's screen presence with ensemble storytelling, how to maintain artistic integrity while managing the inevitable scrutiny. And throughout it all, Amazon MGM executives carefully navigated their communication strategy, recognizing that this project was no longer just a film. It was a cultural moment. Fans of Meghan Markle reacted with equal intensity. Some cheered, eager to see her return to acting with renewed purpose. Others criticized, questioning whether the timing was opportunistic, whether her royal past would overshadow her performance. Social media threads lit up with speculation about the plot, her role, and the potential involvement of Prince Harry. Rumors swirled about whether Harry would appear on screen, whether he would provide creative input, or whether his influence would remain behind the scenes. Every new piece of information generated new waves of conversation, analysis, and, inevitably, further anticipation. For Jason Orley, the surprise casting represented both opportunity and challenge. Directing a star of Meghan Markle's caliber was a rare privilege, yet also a high-stakes endeavor. The pressure was enormous. Not only would the film need to succeed artistically, but it would also be scrutinized in unprecedented ways. Every decision, from script revisions to camera angles, could be dissected publicly, with implications far beyond the film itself. Orley had to navigate these pressures carefully, balancing creative vision with the realities of celebrity influence, media attention, and royal optics. And yet, amid all the speculation and tension, the film's story itself held its own power. Close personal friends was more than a backdrop for Meghan's return. It was a narrative canvas, one that allowed her to explore themes of loyalty, influence, and personal agency. Critics noted that the project seemed almost meta, a reflection of Meghan's real-life experiences navigating complex social and professional networks. The script provided opportunities for both subtle performance and dramatic moments, for humor and vulnerability, for confrontation and reconciliation. Every scene offered a chance for Meghan to demonstrate range, control, and narrative agency, ensuring that her return would be memorable and potentially transformative. As the pre-production phase unfolded, the intrigue only deepened. Leaks hinted at secret meetings, late-night discussions, and heated debates over casting, script changes, and creative direction. Everyone involved seemed acutely aware that this was not an ordinary production. The film had become a focal point for broader conversations about celebrity power, royal influence, and the interplay between media and public perception. Audiences were already forming expectations, speculating about plot twists, character arcs, and potential surprises involving Harry. The industry watched, waited, and speculated. Social media amplified every rumor, every insight, every suggestion. Tweets went viral, fan forums exploded with theories, and entertainment news outlets dedicated pages to every possible angle. The combination of Meghan Markle's star power, her royal history, and the mysterious potential involvement of Prince Harry created a perfect storm of attention, anticipation, and anxiety. And through it all, the central question remained: what would Meghan bring to this film? Was it simply a return to acting, or was there something more profound at play? Was she crafting a narrative that mirrored her personal journey, challenging perceptions and redefining her image? Or was this a carefully orchestrated media strategy designed to dominate headlines and social conversations for months to come? But even as fans, critics, and insiders debated, there was another layer, a layer of secrecy, a hidden dimension that only Jason Orley and a select few in the studio would know. The details of Meghan's vision, the specifics of her involvement, and the reasons behind her audacious request for Harry's inclusion were still locked away. And as production gears began turning, it became clear that this story was far from ordinary. The seemingly straightforward casting announcement was only the beginning, a prelude to a series of events that would captivate, shock, and challenge audiences in ways no one could have predicted. The stage was set. The players were in position. And at the center of it all was Meghan Markle, poised for a return that was bold, calculated, and impossible to ignore. The world was about to witness a casting choice that would redefine expectations, spark debate, and create a cinematic moment intertwined with real-world intrigue. But what came next, the phone call, the requests, the negotiations, would turn everything upside down. And no one, not even the director, could have predicted the full extent of the drama that was about to unfold. The call came late at night, the kind of call that makes you pause, catch your breath, and realize that something extraordinary is happening. Jason Orley, sitting quietly in his office after a long day of production planning, answered his phone and heard a voice that instantly demanded attention. It wasn't a publicist. It wasn't a celebrity manager carefully rehearsing talking points. It was Meghan Markle herself, calm, direct, and unmistakably in control. She didn't waste a single second. "Jason," she said, her voice both familiar and commanding, "we need to talk about Prince Harry's role in Close Personal Friends." Orley, known for his composure on set, found himself momentarily taken aback. The director had navigated high-profile productions before, dealing with star egos, studio pressures, and media speculation. But this was different. This was royalty. This was global attention concentrated in one phone line. And this wasn't a casual suggestion. It was a clear, deliberate request with implications that reached far beyond the usual production headaches. Meghan wasn't asking politely. She was asserting a vision, a narrative choice that could alter the dynamics of the film entirely. He listened carefully as Meghan explained her reasoning. Harry's presence wasn't about screen time or vanity. It was about authenticity, context, and a subtle, layered storytelling device that she believed would elevate the film. "This isn't a cameo," she said, emphasizing each word. "This is a narrative element that deepens the emotional resonance, not just for the characters, but for the audience." Orley could hear the thoughtfulness behind her tone. Every sentence was crafted with precision, every request backed by reasoning that demonstrated both strategic insight and personal investment. But the challenge was clear. Including Harry was not a trivial decision. It meant navigating complex layers of logistics, contracts, legal considerations, and, most importantly, public perception. A royal appearing, even subtly, in a Hollywood production carried potential repercussions that went far beyond the script. Orley had to weigh the creative value against the ripple effects, and in that moment, the stakes could not have been higher. He asked questions, probing gently, seeking to understand how Meghan envisioned Harry's involvement without compromising the integrity of the story or attracting unwanted media firestorms. As the conversation unfolded, Orley began to grasp the full scope of Meghan's plan. This wasn't about celebrity leverage. It was about narrative control, emotional impact, and an audacious re-entry into a world she had stepped away from years prior. She wanted to challenge assumptions, subvert expectations, and craft a cinematic experience that would resonate not just with audiences but with critics, media, and, undeniably, the world at large. Every word, every pause, and every inflection conveyed intention. This was a masterclass in strategic communication, delivered directly over a single phone call. Yet even with all the professionalism and clarity, there were surprises. Meghan didn't simply request Harry's inclusion. She outlined potential scenarios, suggesting ways his presence could enhance plot lines, deepen character relationships, and provide subtle but impactful narrative tension. She referenced specific moments, dialogue exchanges, and emotional beats where his influence, visible or implied, could transform the story from engaging to unforgettable. Orly took notes meticulously, knowing that this conversation would set the tone for production decisions, casting revisions, and possibly the entire trajectory of the film. What struck Orly most, however, was Meghan's awareness of perception. She understood that the mere suggestion of Harry's involvement would dominate headlines, that fans and critics alike would speculate endlessly. But she also recognized the opportunity. If handled correctly, this inclusion could generate excitement, intrigue, and anticipation in a way that few casting decisions ever could. It was a delicate balance, managing visibility without letting it overshadow the story, crafting interest without turning the project into tabloid fodder. Meghan's understanding of both Hollywood mechanics and public sentiment was evident, and Orly couldn't help but admire the precision with which she articulated her vision. The conversation took unexpected turns. Meghan addressed potential objections preemptively, anticipating concerns about media scrutiny, logistical challenges, and even on-set dynamics. She offered solutions, alternatives, and contingencies, demonstrating an understanding of production realities that surprised even seasoned professionals. Orly realized that this was not a typical celebrity request. It was a strategic, calculated, and deeply considered proposal, delivered with confidence and clarity that few could match. At the same time, there were undercurrents of personal stakes. Meghan hinted at the significance of Harry's involvement beyond the cinematic narrative. It wasn't just a creative choice. It was personal, intertwined with their shared experiences, challenges, and perspectives. Orly sensed the layers. A story within a story, an emotional resonance that extended beyond the screen, and a nuanced understanding of how real-life dynamics could enrich fictional storytelling. As the call progressed, Orly found himself negotiating in new ways. It wasn't about whether to include Harry in a generic sense. It was about shaping a story that could withstand the dual pressures of cinematic scrutiny and global public attention. Each suggestion Meghan made carried weight, not only creatively but in terms of optics, perception, and narrative impact. He realized that this phone call was redefining traditional production protocols. The director's role was now intertwined with public relations, royal sensitivities, and the broader implications of celebrity influence. But perhaps the most compelling moment came near the end of the call. Meghan paused, then said something that would echo in Orly's mind long after the conversation ended. "I'm not asking for this lightly. This isn't about attention. It's about truth, story, and the moments that matter. If Harry's presence can make the story more real, more resonant, then it has to happen." Her voice carried conviction, and Orly could hear the sincerity behind the statement. It was a defining moment, a line between spectacle and substance, between celebrity and storytelling. After the call ended, Orly sat back, processing everything. The phone was silent, but the implications were enormous. He had just received a directive unlike any he had encountered in his career. He was exhilarated, daunted, and acutely aware of the responsibility now resting on his shoulders. Including Harry wasn't just a casting choice. It was a decision that would reverberate through Hollywood, media outlets, and the public consciousness. The industry would soon learn of the phone call, but the details would remain shrouded in mystery. Leaks, whispers, and speculation would swirl, but the true content of that conversation was known only to a few. And as production gears began to turn, the pressure mounted. How would Amazon MGM respond? How would the cast, crew, and broader industry navigate the unprecedented intersection of Hollywood storytelling and royal influence. Even more pressing, how would audiences react once they learned the truth? Meghan Markle had not only returned to acting, but had done so with a vision that challenged norms, blurred boundaries, and redefined expectations. The phone call was the first domino, setting in motion events that would capture global attention and redefine conversations around celebrity, royalty, and storytelling. And just when it seemed the conversation was over, the next revelation would strike. One that would leave everyone questioning assumptions and wondering how far Meghan Markle was willing to go to ensure her vision was realized. The moment Meghan Markle requested Prince Harry's involvement in close personal friends, a new layer of intrigue was introduced. It wasn't merely a casting choice. It was a strategic, calculated move with implications that stretched far beyond the confines of a film set. For Hollywood, the idea of a royal entering the production sphere, even in a subtle or consultative capacity, was unprecedented. And for fans and critics, it sparked a flurry of speculation. How involved would Harry be? Would he appear on screen? Would he influence dialogue, character development, or the overarching story? The ambiguity itself became part of the story, a magnet for attention that Hollywood and the media could not resist. Harry's role, as Meghan envisioned, was not about celebrity cameo or visual spectacle. It was about emotional weight and narrative resonance. Meghan wanted him included in ways that would deepen the authenticity of certain relationships within the story, reflecting shared experiences, personal dynamics, and subtleties that could only come from someone intimately connected to her. She explained to Jason Orley that Harry's insight could provide a kind of narrative compass, helping to shape interactions, dialogue, and character motivations in ways that elevated the script beyond ordinary storytelling. It was a concept that blurred fiction and reality in a delicate, provocative manner. But defining Harry's secret role was not straightforward. There were multiple possibilities. He could consult behind the scenes, helping refine scripts. He could advise on character motivations or emotional beats. Or, in a bolder scenario, he could appear in a cameo role that was carefully crafted to be meaningful yet unobtrusive. Each option carried its own logistical, legal, and public perception challenges. Lawyers debated clauses, studio executives weighed implications, and PR teams began drafting contingency strategies even before Harry set foot, or spoke a word, on set. The ripple effect of Meghan's request was enormous, touching creative, legal, and media spheres simultaneously. Inside the studio, discussions about Harry's involvement were both cautious and electrifying. Some executives were hesitant, concerned about potential controversies, media scrutiny, and the reactions from royal watchers. Others recognized the opportunity. No one could generate attention and intrigue quite like a prince whose every action was global news. In private meetings, insiders whispered that Harry's inclusion could make close personal friends not just a hit film, but a cultural phenomenon, a story that intertwined celebrity influence, royal history, and cinematic storytelling in ways few productions could achieve. And yet, Harry's participation carried personal stakes. This was not a typical professional collaboration. It was a family and partnership dynamic entering a highly visible arena. Every scene, suggestion, or consultation he offered could be analyzed, dissected, and potentially misinterpreted by the public. His involvement needed to be carefully balanced, enough to influence the story meaningfully, but not so much as to overshadow the film or invite unwanted controversy. Meghan, fully aware of this, approached the situation with precision. She framed Harry's potential contribution in terms of narrative enrichment rather than celebrity leverage, emphasizing authenticity, emotional truth, and the subtleties of relational dynamics. The director, Jason Orley, had to navigate this delicate territory carefully. He recognized Harry's potential to add depth to the film while also understanding the pressures of navigating royal optics. Orley's role became part director, part mediator, and part strategist. He had to balance creative vision with discretion, ensuring that Harry's contributions enhanced the story without creating distraction or backlash. The process required thoughtful planning, tight coordination, and an acute awareness of how even minor details could become public fodder. The secrecy surrounding Harry's role added another layer of intrigue. Leaks were inevitable, but Orly and the studio implemented strict protocols to limit information flow. Only essential personnel were informed of his involvement, and even then, instructions were clear. The project's creative vision must remain paramount, and the media narrative carefully controlled. This atmosphere of confidentiality amplified curiosity, as insiders speculated and fans dissected every social media post, interview, and production update for hints of his presence. Meanwhile, Harry himself approached the project with measured discretion. He understood that his participation, even behind the scenes, would be scrutinized relentlessly. His focus was on supporting Meghan's vision, ensuring authenticity, and contributing in ways that enriched the story without drawing undue attention to himself. In private discussions, he offered insights on character relationships, emotional arcs, and subtle narrative beats that reflected real-life experiences, providing depth and nuance that only someone so intimately connected could offer. The implications for the narrative of close personal friends were profound. Harry's involvement allowed the script to explore themes of loyalty, trust, and emotional vulnerability with a resonance that might have been impossible otherwise. It created opportunities for moments of genuine tension, unexpected humor, and poignant reflection, elements that audiences would respond to viscerally, even if they were unaware of the personal parallels embedded within the story. It was a masterstroke in layered storytelling, fiction enriched by reality, narrative depth enhanced by lived experience. Speculation intensified outside the studio. Fans debated endlessly online. Would Harry be visible on-screen, or purely advisory? How much of Meghan's real-life experiences would inform the storyline? Could this blend of reality and fiction redefine celebrity influence in Hollywood? Analysts noted that the combination of Meghan's return and Harry's discreet participation represented an unprecedented confluence of personal narrative and cinematic production, a case study in strategic media influence and storytelling innovation. Despite the buzz, the inner workings of Harry's secret role remained tightly controlled. Confidentiality agreements, limited access, and selective communication ensured that the full scope of his involvement would only be revealed on the terms of the production team. This control over narrative information created tension, mystery, and anticipation. Every leak, rumor, and social media post was amplified precisely because so little was confirmed, keeping audiences glued and conversations ongoing. As filming progressed, Harry's contributions became more apparent internally. Subtle adjustments to dialogue, small tweaks to emotional interactions, and guidance on character motivations were integrated seamlessly into the production. Yet externally, the story remained enigmatic. The world watched and speculated, creating a feedback loop of curiosity, engagement, and hype. The secrecy itself became a storytelling device, a meta-narrative that mirrored the film's themes of hidden layers, personal loyalty, and the complex interplay between public image and private reality. But the intrigue didn't stop there. The inclusion of Harry, even in a limited or advisory capacity, had unforeseen consequences. Co-stars noticed subtle shifts in script focus and emotional tone. Crew members whispered about the unusual intensity of certain scenes. Media insiders scrambled to uncover even the smallest hint of his presence. And the studio had to navigate each revelation carefully, balancing transparency with secrecy, engagement with discretion. Every day brought new challenges, new calculations, and new opportunities to shape the narrative strategically. It became increasingly clear that Harry's involvement, while discreet, was transformative. Not just for the film, but for Meghan's public return, Hollywood's perception of royal influence, and the broader discourse around celebrity agency and storytelling. This was not merely a collaboration. It was a statement, a calculated re-entry into a world that had evolved during their absence. Every decision, every insight, every contribution was part of a broader strategy to maximize impact, authenticity, and resonance. And just when the story seemed to settle into this delicate equilibrium, an unexpected leak threatened to upend the carefully orchestrated secrecy. Whispers of Harry's role reached journalists, social media analysts, and even global news outlets, sparking a wave of speculation, misinformation, and intrigue. The The question that now dominated discussions was unavoidable. Just how much influence did Prince Harry truly have in close personal friends, and how would this revelation reshape the audience's perception of the film and Meghan's career comeback? As word of Meghan Markle's bold request to include Prince Harry in close personal friends began circulating, Amazon MGM found itself at the center of an unprecedented dilemma. For a studio accustomed to managing high-profile productions and celebrity-driven narratives, nothing in their playbook prepared them for this. On one hand, the potential media storm, fan frenzy, and commercial impact of having a royal involved in a Hollywood production were enormous. On the other, the risks, legal, logistical, and reputational, were equally staggering. Every decision carried weight, and the studio knew that missteps could ignite backlash, lawsuits, or worse, jeopardize the carefully curated relationship between Hollywood and royalty. Inside the boardroom, executives debated with a mix of excitement, fear, and pragmatism. Legal advisors outlined potential pitfalls, issues of image rights, security concerns, and the complex protocols associated with a public figure of Harry's stature. Marketing teams envisioned a narrative of intrigue, authenticity, and exclusivity that could dominate headlines, social media, and global conversation. Production managers worried about on-set dynamics, the potential for leaks, and the logistical nightmare of coordinating schedules, security, and creative priorities. The stakes were unlike anything they had faced before. The discussions were intense, sometimes heated. "We're talking about a prince," one executive emphasized. "Not just a celebrity, a prince. Every move will be scrutinized, dissected, and politicized." Another countered, "Exactly, and that's the opportunity. This is marketing gold. The narrative practically writes itself. If we manage it correctly, this could redefine what Amazon MGM can achieve with star power and story." The tension between caution and opportunity created a palpable energy in the room. An electric mix of fear, ambition, and anticipation that reflected the extraordinary nature of the situation. Meanwhile, Jason Orley remained a key voice in the conversation. He provided insight into the creative value of Harry's involvement, arguing that the inclusion could enhance narrative depth, emotional resonance, and audience engagement. Orley highlighted scenarios where Harry's influence could subtly shift dialogue, character motivations, or plot dynamics, providing a realism that only someone intimately familiar with Meghan could bring. His argument was compelling, yet executives remained wary. How could they balance the creative potential against the practical risks of involving a royal figure in a film set environment? The dilemma was further complicated by public expectation. Social media chatter had already exploded, with fans speculating about the nature of Harry's role, the implications for the narrative, and the possibility of future sequels or spin-offs. Entertainment journalists were clamoring for interviews, insiders were leaking speculation, and the rumor mill was spinning faster than the studio could manage. Amazon MGM realized that their handling of this project would not only impact the film itself, but also their broader reputation as a studio capable of managing delicate, high-stakes productions. Internal debates extended to contingency planning. Security teams outlined measures to protect Harry, Meghan, and the production crew. PR teams crafted statements designed to acknowledge the unique collaboration while preserving the integrity of the project. Legal advisors reviewed contracts with painstaking attention to detail, ensuring that every scenario, from accidental leaks to unexpected media exposure, was accounted for. The studio had to operate on multiple fronts simultaneously, each requiring precision, foresight, and discretion. At the same time, the financial implications loomed large. A film featuring Meghan Markle was already expected to generate significant revenue due to star power alone. Adding Prince Harry, even subtly, had the potential to exponentially increase audience interest, streaming subscriptions, and media coverage. Investors, aware of the potential, were pressing for clarity, seeking assurances that the production could maximize its impact without triggering controversies that might diminish returns. Balancing creative freedom with financial prudence became a central challenge for Amazon MGM. Even among the creative team, opinions diverged. Some writers worried that incorporating real-life figures, particularly a royal, could distract from the narrative and compromise storytelling. Others argued that the authenticity and emotional depth provided by Harry's involvement could elevate the project beyond conventional cinematic expectations. Directors, producers, and consultants weighed in, each contributing perspectives shaped by experience, ambition, and risk tolerance. The dialogue was rigorous, sometimes tense, but always underscored by the recognition that this was a rare, once-in-a-lifetime scenario. In parallel, studio executives began simulating potential media scenarios. Headlines, social media reactions, and public commentary were modeled in hypothetical scenarios to anticipate backlash, praise, or misinterpretation. Would tabloids sensationalize Harry's involvement? Would fans feel manipulated or inspired? Could critics recognize the narrative intent without being distracted by royal presence? Each hypothetical outcome required careful planning, communication strategy, and rapid response protocols. Amazon MGM's approach was methodical, acknowledging that every word, image, and statement would be analyzed under a global microscope. Adding complexity to the dilemma were internal power dynamics. Some executives saw Harry's involvement as an opportunity to position Amazon MGM as innovative, daring, and culturally relevant. Others feared that a single misstep could tarnish reputations, strain relationships with the monarchy, or create legal entanglements. Navigating these internal tensions required diplomacy, consensus building, and a shared understanding that the stakes were unprecedented. Meanwhile, Jason Orley and Meghan maintained ongoing discussions about creative priorities. Meghan articulated her vision clearly, emphasizing narrative cohesion, character development, and emotional authenticity. Orley acted as mediator between the creative team and the studio executives, ensuring that Harry's potential contributions enhanced the film without creating public controversy. The collaboration was delicate, high-pressure, and unprecedented. An extraordinary convergence of artistic vision, celebrity influence, and royal presence. Despite careful planning, uncertainty remained. Leaks and rumors were inevitable, and managing public perception required constant vigilance. Every day brought new considerations. Which scenes could subtly include Harry's influence? How could dialogue and story arcs reflect his presence without drawing undue attention? What messaging would be conveyed to the public? And how could the studio control the narrative effectively? The balance between secrecy, narrative integrity, and media engagement was a daily challenge that required meticulous coordination. Yet, amid the pressure, there was excitement. Amazon MGM realized they were part of something historic. The intersection of Hollywood, celebrity influence, and royalty created a narrative that transcended ordinary film production. If executed successfully, close personal friends could redefine storytelling, media influence, and audience engagement, demonstrating the studio's capacity to innovate at the highest levels. But just as the studio began to settle on a strategy, a complication emerged, an unforeseen leak suggesting Harry's involvement had reached public awareness. Rumors began spreading online, speculation intensified, and journalists clamored for verification. The studio found itself once again navigating high-stakes territory, balancing secrecy, creative vision, and the expectations of a global audience. Every decision now carried even greater weight, and the dilemma that had begun with Meghan's call now escalated into a full-blown production crisis with enormous potential consequences. The tension within Amazon MGM reached a peak. Executives, creative teams, legal advisors, and PR specialists had to act with precision, ensuring that Harry's involvement enhanced the film while minimizing exposure and controversy. Strategic meetings ran late into the night, emails flew across departments, and production schedules were adjusted to accommodate this unprecedented scenario. The stakes were enormous, and every move was a careful calculation in a game with global attention. And just when it seemed that a tentative path forward had been established, the next unexpected twist arrived. An anonymous insider hinted at a potential creative conflict on set, one that could challenge both Meghan and Harry's vision, test studio loyalty, and alter the trajectory of the film entirely. It didn't take long for Hollywood to catch wind of the bombshell that was quietly simmering behind the closed doors of Amazon MGM. Once Meghan Markle made her intentions known, specifically her bold request to include Prince Harry in close personal friends, The rumor mill accelerated into overdrive. The industry thrives on gossip, speculation, and insider leaks, and this scenario offered all three in abundance. As soon as whispers reached talent agencies, production offices, and social media channels, the story took on a life of its own, spreading faster than anyone could anticipate. From the outset, the intrigue was irresistible. A former royal, a global media sensation, and a returning Hollywood starlet was already a combination that generated attention. Add a request for Prince Harry's involvement, and suddenly, the narrative became not just about film, but about celebrity influence, royal precedent, and a behind-the-scenes power play. Entertainment journalists scrambled for sources, social media influencers amplified every subtle hint, and fan forums dissected each tweet, Instagram post, and interview for clues. It was an avalanche of curiosity, speculation, and excitement. Hollywood insiders were divided in their reactions. Some were awestruck by Meghan's audacity, marveling at the strategic precision of her move. "She knows exactly what she's doing," one agent whispered. "She's not just returning to acting. She's orchestrating a media event that will dominate headlines for months." Others were more skeptical, questioning the wisdom of mixing royalty with a Hollywood production. Concerns ranged from narrative distraction to potential public backlash. This could overshadow the movie itself, an executive warned. People might focus on Harry's involvement rather than the story we're trying to tell. The gossip escalated rapidly, fueled in part by anonymous leaks. Crew members, eager to share tidbits without naming names, hinted at late-night meetings, secret consultations, and script adjustments designed to accommodate the royal influence. Journalists pieced together these fragments, creating speculative articles that ranged from plausible to outright sensational. Headlines appeared that seemed straight out of a tabloid. Royal influence hits Hollywood set. Harry in the script? Meghan calls the shots. Amazon MGM navigates unprecedented celebrity-royal collaboration. Each new revelation, real or imagined, kept audiences glued, amplifying anticipation and curiosity. Social media played an equally crucial role in spreading the story. Twitter threads exploded with fan theories, memes, and speculation about Harry's role, ranging from the most subtle cameo to dramatic on-screen influence. Instagram accounts dedicated to royal and celebrity news dissected wardrobe choices, body language in interviews, and production photos for hidden signals. Even TikTok creators produced viral videos analyzing potential plot points and predicting how Harry's influence might manifest. The collective curiosity and speculation created a feedback loop, feeding both media coverage and fan engagement, and keeping the story in constant circulation. Meanwhile, the cast and crew of close personal friends found themselves navigating the intense spotlight in unexpected ways. Co-stars were asked about the story in interviews, often deflecting with humor or vague acknowledgement. Behind the scenes, production teams had to balance focus on the film's creative vision with heightened attention to media scrutiny. Even minor production changes were scrutinized by insiders and fans alike, and every detail seemed to carry significance beyond its intended purpose. The gossip amplified stakes, tension, and the pressure to deliver a flawless final product. Within Hollywood circles, the gossip took on additional layers of complexity. Agents speculated on contract negotiations, wondering if Harry's involvement might require unique clauses or special arrangements. Studios compared notes, considering how a royal presence could be leveraged in other projects or sequels. Entertainment lawyers analyzed legal ramifications, from image rights to potential conflicts of interest. Even directors and producers not involved in the project were watching closely, curious about how this unprecedented collaboration might set a new precedent for celebrity influence and royal participation in Hollywood productions. The public's fascination was also driven by the inherent contradictions of the scenario. Meghan had been absent from acting for years, stepping away to focus on family and royal obligations, yet now she returned with an assertive, almost audacious vision. Harry, who had traditionally avoided the limelight in professional contexts post-royal life, was being quietly woven into a Hollywood narrative in ways that could never have been anticipated. The juxtaposition of subtlety and spectacle, privacy and publicity, authenticity and strategy, created a perfect storm of intrigue that fed every gossip outlet and social media feed. Insider reports, whether accurate or speculative, added fuel to the fire. Journalists wrote about potential creative conflicts, set dynamics, and unconfirmed cameo possibilities. Fan speculation transformed these rumors into elaborate theories about plot twists, character relationships, and potential Easter eggs referencing real-life experiences of the couple. The result was a pervasive sense that something historic, dramatic, and utterly unpredictable was unfolding, even before the cameras began rolling. Even Hollywood veterans found themselves caught up in the excitement. Producers, agents, and actors alike marveled at the combination of strategy, audacity, and timing displayed by Meghan. The gossip wasn't just about personal involvement. It was about understanding the calculated brilliance of orchestrating a story that could captivate audiences worldwide, dominate headlines, and generate discussion across entertainment, lifestyle, and news platforms. Every detail, no matter how minor, was a potential headline, a viral post, or a talking point that could shape the project's perception. Yet with the gossip came challenges. Misinterpretation, sensationalism, and exaggeration threatened to overshadow the film's artistic goals. The studio had to implement rapid response strategies, carefully controlling messaging and steering the narrative without stifling excitement. Social media teams monitored trends, correcting misinformation and guiding audience perception, while PR strategists crafted statements designed to amplify interest without exposing sensitive details. It was a constant balancing act, requiring vigilance, foresight, and creativity. As the story evolved, a broader conversation emerged about the intersection of celebrity, media, and royal influence. Meghan's return wasn't merely a film casting. It became a cultural moment, highlighting questions of influence, narrative control, and public engagement. Audiences debated the ethics, strategy, and implications of mixing real-life figures into fictional storytelling. Hollywood insiders analyzed what this could mean for future productions, while social commentators discussed the unprecedented nature of this royal Hollywood collaboration. And just when it seemed the gossip had reached its peak, the next twist arrived. Hints of leaked production photos showing Harry's subtle involvement began circulating online. Fans dissected every image, claiming to see clues about his role, the storyline, and even hidden plot points. The speculation reignited discussions, created viral trends, and ensured that the film remained in the global conversation even before release. The whispers that had swept through Hollywood and social media finally began to impact the film itself. With Meghan Markle's return and Prince Harry's subtle involvement, close personal friends suddenly became more than a project. It was a high-stakes operation demanding rapid, precise adjustments to the script. What had initially been a tightly woven narrative now required careful recalibration to accommodate royal input, media scrutiny, and fan expectations, all without compromising the story's artistic integrity. The scriptwriters convened in emergency sessions, pencils poised over laptops, rewriting scenes that had once flowed naturally. Lines were shifted, emotional beats recalibrated, and interactions reshaped to incorporate Meghan's vision and the subtle influence of Harry. Every word, sentence, and paragraph was scrutinized, questioned, and reworked. The stakes were higher than ever. A single misstep could not only derail the narrative, but also ignite controversies that would dominate headlines and social media feeds for weeks. Orley, as director, became the mediator between creative freedom and external pressure. He listened to Meghan's recommendations, weighing her reasoning with the practical demands of storytelling and audience engagement. "This line needs more depth," she suggested at one point. "This scene could reveal vulnerability without being overt." Harry's guidance can help shape it subtly. The challenge was balancing these creative contributions with the reality that any hint of royal presence could spark speculation, misinterpretation, or backlash. The script rewrites were layered, almost like chess moves in a high-stakes game. Certain scenes were adapted to reflect nuances that only Harry's insights could provide. Moments of quiet reflection, subtle gestures of loyalty, or small acts of narrative tension that hinted at deeper relationships. Dialogue was softened or sharpened, depending on the emotional resonance required. Writers worked tirelessly to weave these elements seamlessly into the existing storyline, ensuring that the final product would feel coherent, authentic, and emotionally compelling. The process was not without its challenges. Some writers resisted, fearing that the narrative risked being overshadowed by the external fascination with royal involvement. "We need the story to stand on its own," one argued during a heated revision session. "We can't let speculation drive the narrative." Orley countered, reminding the team that Meghan's vision was integral to the story's authenticity and depth. The delicate balance between creative integrity and external influence became a recurring theme throughout the rewrite process. Meanwhile, executives monitored every adjustment with keen interest. Legal advisors scrutinized the scripts for potential issues with image rights, confidentiality, and defamation, while PR teams prepared contingency statements to manage leaks or speculation. Marketing teams, on the other hand, saw opportunity. These revisions could create subtle Easter eggs for audiences, driving engagement and anticipation. Every rewritten scene was a calculated intersection of art, strategy, and perception management. The pace of the rewrites accelerated as production schedules demanded clarity. Scenes were rewritten on short notice, sometimes multiple times in a single day. Orley coordinated closely with the writing team, actors, and Meghan herself to ensure that every adjustment met both creative and strategic objectives. The collaborative process was intense, often running late into the night, and required a level of focus and adaptability rarely seen in conventional productions. Harry's role, though intentionally understated in public perception, influenced these rewrites in significant ways. Through confidential consultations with Orley and Meghan, he provided insights into character motivations, interpersonal dynamics, and emotional subtleties that were then incorporated into the script. His contributions were often invisible to the audience, yet they shaped the narrative in ways that deepened realism and emotional resonance. Even a small adjustment in dialogue or reaction could transform a scene from ordinary to compelling, reflecting lived experience and genuine emotional complexity. The rewrites also addressed potential controversies proactively. Writers and executives analyzed every line and scene for elements that might be misinterpreted or sensationalized. Background interactions, character choices, and even subtle gestures were reviewed to minimize the risk of misrepresentation, while maintaining the story's integrity and appeal. It was an extraordinary exercise in narrative precision, balancing creative ambition with global attention and high-stakes visibility. Beyond the creative process, the rewrites sparked internal drama. Actors debated changes, questioning the reasoning behind subtle adjustments. Crew members observed tense discussions, recognizing that the stakes extended far beyond the immediate filming schedule. Even minor details, like the positioning of a prop, a character's reaction, or a background cue, were subject to scrutiny, analyzed for their potential impact on narrative perception and media interpretation. The environment was a pressure cooker of creativity, strategy, and anticipation. As the script solidified, the impact of the rewrites became clear. The story had grown richer, more nuanced, and emotionally resonant. Scenes that once felt routine now carried layers of depth and subtlety, influenced by Meghan's vision and Harry's advisory input. Audiences, when finally presented with the film, would experience a narrative infused with authenticity, tension, and unexpected complexity. The rewrites had elevated the project from a standard Hollywood drama to a multi-layered, culturally significant cinematic event. Yet, even as the team celebrated the progress, a new challenge emerged: the inevitable leak. Despite strict confidentiality measures, rumors of the rewrites, combined with hints of Harry's involvement, began circulating online. Fans speculated about scene changes, dialogue tweaks, and potential plot twists. Media outlets, sensing an explosive story, began publishing analyses, often based on incomplete information. The pressure on the production team intensified, as they had to manage perception while keeping the film's true narrative intact. The script rewrites had done more than refine the story. They had transformed the entire production ecosystem. From writers to directors, actors to executives, everyone was now operating under heightened scrutiny, navigating a delicate interplay of artistic vision, celebrity influence, and royal sensitivity. The film was no longer just a story to be told. It was a narrative experience, a cultural event, and a high-stakes media phenomenon, all intertwined in ways that no team had anticipated. And as the final versions of the script circulated, another revelation loomed on the horizon, a potential conflict between creative priorities and external expectations. This looming tension promised to test the resolve, ingenuity, and collaboration of everyone involved in close personal friends. In Hollywood, secrets are fragile things. They are whispered in corridors, carried by assistants, and occasionally spilled over casual drinks on set. But when the whispers involve Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, they become global events. Even before cameras began rolling on close personal friends, leaks had started to emerge, small fragments of information that hinted at the royal influence behind the scenes. Anonymous tips, unnamed sources, and mysterious social media posts combined to create a narrative that was equal parts